We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. And I had to very much chuckle at our local radio news. Like I just listen to that for the traffic, basically, if I'm commuting somewhere. And we had like a warmer than normal for Vancouver little heat spell for about a week here in May, and so it was a little warmer than normal, but not completely unpleasant. And our local news reported it as be careful in the blazing heat. They use that word. That's verbatim, was blazing. And you got to guess, Tom. Guess what the temperature was?
19, 22.
No. It was 28. It got up to 28.
Oh, that's pretty hot.
Well, that's what, about 83 Fahrenheit, right in that range.
It was really hot. Like, for those of you that aren't familiar, if you really want to be in a heat wave, if you want to say what's a heat wave in Celsius, get close to 40. When you're close, that's like
intolerable to me.
Outrageous. That's like in the hundreds, like hundreds and something.
Like 32, you'd be like, it feels hot.
It's
and like 35 is like, it's hot out. It's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the conversion is. I just, like, in my mind, there's certain breakpoints where I'm like, 19 is it's not cold. It's like you can get out. I mean, you can, not for you, Rob. No one cares what you think because you're weird. But for a normal person that will go outside and want to, maybe wear shorts and a t-shirt and then maybe a hoodie that they take off if they move around too much. That's 19. 19 is there's a chill in the air in the mornings, but it's kind of nice.
But yeah, no, even I had to chuckle at the description of 28 being blazing. I thought
blazing seems a little excessive.
That's maybe a little bit of an exaggeration.
Can we just have? We used to have news, right?
Yeah.
Like in weather and stuff. Well, the fact that most of NOAA, the National Ocean, whatever it's called, got fired recently.
Okay.
There's maybe weather it's not their fault. They don't have anybody to help them out with that because they were all using the same services. Now we have to use other people's services for hurricanes, which is exciting for us. Yeah. But we used to have real news. We used to have news that you can kind of trust. And now they're like, listen, we have to fill all this to fill all this time. We need to get people's views. So let's talk about let's just exaggerate a little bit. And I'm all about exaggeration. I am an exaggerator. My wife gets mad at me. She's like, "That's not exactly how it happened."
You should not be exaggerated.
It shouldn't.
Should be straight ahead as you can possibly be.
You would think that used to be journalistic integrity was a thing for a while, for a long while, I think. But even back in the no matter what back days you were, there was always nefarious things going on behind the scenes of things that were or weren't reported for one reason or another. Sure. So it's not like I'm harkening back to the good old days or whatever. What I am saying is that surely we can not say that 28 is blazing. That's all I'm saying. Let's just be a little bit more accurate.
I'll just chalk that up to our local news anchor just having a little bit of fun with it. It wasn't saying it like sarcastically or tongue in cheek though. So
that's the problem.
That's why I chuckled. That's why I chuckled at it.
So the X1S giveaway is in full swing. We've been getting one might consider a disturbing amount of emails about it because I was like, surely some of these are bots because it seems like too many to me. I thought at this point, I literally thought we had like 15 people listening to us. I thought it was just me and you and like a large room full of people, not like a house, but just like, a living room full of people. Based on the number of entries we've gotten, it has been a lot more than that. So that's exciting.
Honestly, it's really not that many in a true numerical number when you consider contest
entries. It feels like a lot. Every day I'm getting emails. Yes, for
us it feels like a lot. But very pleased with that. And let's not bury the lead anymore. This, as you're hearing this now, this will be your final week to enter.
Yes.
We are going to do the drawing for the free Sofabaton X1S remote giveaway. We will be making that drawing when we record next on May 12th. So I think we've got to cut it off on the 11:59 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, May 11th. There, they'll be very specific.
We have to have some time to go through the names and make sure there's no repeats and stuff like that too.
Exactly.
So we could give ourselves.
So I'm going to cut out. So that's my limit. 11:59 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, May the 11th. You can figure out what that is in your local time. That is going to be the cutoff. And then, on May the 12th, we're gonna draw the winner. And so, I guess we can say I had said we would give away at least one. And true to our word, there's going to be three X1S remotes are going to be given away. We're going to do those drawings on May 12th. So, that is at least one.
We'll do it on May 12th, but you won't hear it on May 12th. The people who win may be getting emails, but everybody else, you'll have to wait until the podcast comes out a couple days later.
That is when the drawing is taking place, so it is utterly impossible to enter after that point.
Yes.
So there we go. Those are the details there, and there you go.
Very
This is your last chance, as long as you're hearing this before 11:59 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, May 11th, and you have the
2026. In case, I guess we should say that too.
What?
2026. Just in case somebody's in the future listening to this and going, "Oh, I was going back and listening to old episodes. Can I still enter?" No, you cannot.
Yeah, it does pay to be that pedantic, because my goodness, some of the comments we've had in the past. So there you go. That's going to be the fun giveaway next week. There, Sofabaton X1S, 3 of them to give out. Is going to be pretty good. Hooray!
Right. So it is the beginning of summer, which means my children are migrating home. And this room that I'm in right now is a bedroom, and it is now inhabited by my son, who is, well, they're all basically slobs. No offense. I mean, it is sort of the way of things. Like your parents take care of everything for you and then fuss at you to keep your room clean, and you don't do it. And then you move out and you just let everything go to heck until you finally grow up enough to go, I can't live like this anymore. And you start cleaning up after yourself. They haven't gotten to that last step yet. Okay. None of them. They're 20. The two that have moved out are 20 and 22. So the 22-year-old will turn 23 in July. So the 20-year-old is home right now, and he's living in here for the moment. We'll see what happens in the long run. But we're very excited to have the kids home, but it does mean that there's going to be some stuff behind me that I can't control.
A little bit of bedlam.
Yep. A little bit of, there's a stack of clothes. They're clean because I cleaned them, or maybe he cleaned them. I don't remember, but I definitely dumped them on that thing back there in order to encourage him to fold them. I actually dumped them on the bed, and he moved them. That's where they live.
There was someone who emailed who said that they watch us on YouTube on their 135-inch projection screen.
Please
I was just like, why would you subject yourself to that? But also, you're maybe the only person who will actually be able to make out what is behind Tom on this broadcast.
There is one of the things is a 3D printer that my son refuses to take with him anywhere. He just bought it, and it lives there, and I can't get rid of it.
But you magnify our slightly out of focus, slightly non-lip synced 1080p YouTube upload with the massive amounts of compression.
I mean, I think I'm recording in 720. So
but we're putting them side by side. So the final thing comes out as 1080p now, but I mean that's only the pixel count. I wouldn't say there's actually that amount of resolution on screen, but blowing it up to 135, you might be the person who's able to make out what's happening behind Tom.
I will tell you. So my son, and this is the only story I'll share about what's happening, but he's home from college, and I saw him in the kitchen, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, he's getting ingredients out and stuff. He's asking me where flour is. I'm like, what's going on in there? He goes, I'm making myself a cupcake or a mug cake. Maybe he called it. I don't remember.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a cake. It's a little one-serving cake that you make in a coffee mug.
Make it in a mug, put it in the microwave, that whole thing. Right. Comes out horrible and spongy, but there you go.
He's 20 years old. He's in college.
Saw it on TikTok, no doubt. There was no doubt on TikTok.
I'm sure he did. So I'm like, okay. So he made it, and I saw him eating it, and he was like grimacing the entire time.
There you go. Seems about right.
So he eventually throws it away, and I'm like, so how was that? He goes, it wasn't very good. I'm like, I'm like, where did you get this recipe? What are you doing? He goes, well, I got the recipe from, I don't know, Instagram or whatever he said. I don't remember what he said. And he said, but he wanted something, like it had too many something in it. Or he wanted more protein in it or something like that. He's a workout kid. Right?
Put the protein powder in there, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so as you. I'm like, where'd you get the recipe? He goes, well, I just asked ChatGPT to modify it for me. I'm like, well, how did that work out for you?
Yeah.
I'm like, how'd that work out? He goes, it was terrible. I'm like, what did you think was going to happen? ChatGPT is just going to tell you whatever you want to hear. Just going to make stuff up, and then you're going to eat it and hopefully not die. I mean, who knows?
Those mug cakes, in my experience, had never been good to begin with. And then you throw a bunch of protein powder in there, and that's going to be a fun time.
Who knows what he put in there? Every ingredient I saw was actually food, so that's good. That's step one. But
didn't get the rocks or the glue from the old days.
Yeah, so he's got all this protein. He's got the creatine. He's got the protein powders. He's got there's a bag he carries around when he's eating that looks like dog food. It looks like a dog food bag. It's just a big old bag of whatever. And I'm just like, listen, man, he just leaves it out everywhere. I'm like, you got to put this stuff away. I don't know what any of this stuff is. It looks weird. Why is it all in the biggest containers anybody's? Why is it all Costco sized? Why is it so big? Like, why can't it be like a normal size? And so I had to make a whole shelf for him in the pantry just so he could put his dog food stuff away. But yeah, he got mad at me the other day because I unilaterally said that I don't trust anybody that's selling supplements. He goes, well, that doesn't make much sense. And I'm like, he goes, that's a pretty stupid thing to say. I'm like, I don't think it is.
It isn't. It's a dead giveaway. If you're selling supplements, you are not to be trusted.
I'm not saying that you can't be a good person who's selling supplements. I'm just saying statistically, you aren't.
Well, look, if your doctor tells you that you after your blood work you are deficient in vitamin D and they recommend a supplement of that, okay, like that type of stuff makes sense. But if you're the podcasters and TikTokers selling the supplements, that is a dead giveaway.
So he's the one I constantly have to have talks about the manosphere and stuff like that because he's fitness, and the fitness is very adjacent to that whole world. Yes. So I have to, and he's very smart,
easily crossed over.
He's had a girlfriend before, at least one that I know of. Okay. So I feel confident that he's not going to completely fall down that red pill rabbit hole, but we'll see. We're gonna
what a world.
Try to make it.
What a lovely world.
Come on. Every generation has had some pitfall to worry about. Of course, my parents were worried about. Was it Satanists? I feel like it was Satanists.
Oh yeah, there was the Satanic Panic. You were in the generation for the Satanic Panic. I was in the generation
of the Satanic Panic. I remember when that whole thing, Mike Warnke, that whole thing was like. Right. I actually listened to a lot of his stuff.
I was a little bit young for that, but I was. I had an older sister, so I heard enough of it. So we're already into getting flame territory by the people who hate any of the comments we just made. So
that's okay.
I might as well
just
say...
You're not getting an X1S if you don't listen to the podcast. So.
That is untrue. That was facetious.
That was never a requirement. You just have to send us your email.
We have no idea. But no, just since we're on this sort of topic trend here at the beginning, just the whole InfoWars thing that went down this past week, and the Onion now having control of InfoWars, the actual brand and everything.
Tim Leidecker does such an insanely good impression of Alex Jones. It's uncanny. If you listen to him, he sounds exactly like him. That you look at him and he's making all the faces at the same time. It's weird.
It's quite the thing. Quite the thing they're doing over there with that.
And the Onion, I saw the interview with the Onion guy who was part of the whole team that bought it and then hired Tim. And they were like, they hired him not knowing that he could do an Alex Jones impression. Like, they did not know until after they hired him that he could do that impression.
Well, that was like a thing that he did. So
Crazy. Anyways, I'm laughing about it, but I know some people out there are like, well, he was a national hero. Yes, okay.
And since we said the words out loud and there's all the voice recognition, everything, I think our comments on YouTube this week, we're gonna have the massive amount of bots that just come in and all say, I remember when the Onion used to be funny. They all say that exact same thing verbatim, and there's a gazillion bots that all reply the exact same way. So welcome to our comments.
Welcome
section.
to the bot army, the Soviet bot army, or whatever it is. I don't know who's controlling the bots these days. Anyways, so what's been going on with you this week, Rob? Now that I've pissed off 51% of our audience, if not more.
Yes, that's about right. Yeah, no, been cat sitting.
You said something about cat danger in your in your text to me, and I was like, you've never said those two words before. Okay.
Yeah, no, just cat sitting for my sister and her family while they are away on a little vacation, and nice. And they are shedding. Those cats are shedding. The weather's getting warmer, and they are getting rid of those coats. So I was absolutely covered in cat dander. It's blazing.
It's blazing. Have you not heard, Rob? That it is blazing.
That's what's happening. That, and then getting all the I guess, what do you call them? I mean, like the tax returns, right? Like the getting everything back, and then that means updating all of the what my elderly family members are paying in the various residences where they're staying, because it's all based upon what their taxes were, and you have to get the tax return first and all that stuff. So all just logistics going on in the background.
Very exciting.
Nothing backbreaking.
I didn't watch anything again, though. I have gotten all the things I need to set up the home theater now.
Okay.
So I am hopefully. This truck. Okay. Hopefully going to get the home theater set up this week, but don't quote me on that because, again, boys. And also, that piece of furniture is together that I was talking about a couple of weeks ago. That's all together, and now my wife is hyper-focused on getting that filled up with stuff. So that's exciting. Either way, things are moving forward here. So what did you watch?
Yes, I watched one movie this week, which just came out towards the end of 2025 there. It is titled Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. That's starring Sam Rockwell and Juno Temple.
That looks very interesting. I was very interested in this movie.
Yeah, the poster's very interesting. The sort of synopsis and log line are very interesting. I'll just say first, this was written by Matthew Robinson. I looked at the IMDb and I'm forgetting. I think he did a bunch of White Lotus or something like that. It was some show like that, but not a huge number of other writing credits. And then directed by Gore Verbinski, right? Most famous for doing the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And I will say, not to spoil too much going ahead, but this is another Gore Verbinski thing where, this movie definitely did not need to be this long. Much like the Pirates movies, it went on a little bit longer than it honestly needed to. That seems to be
like this. I'm just like, just stop overstaying your welcome. You're not as clever as you think you are.
Seemed to be a trait of Gore Verbinski there. The basic premise of this is that a man shows up at a diner. I don't think they said exactly what city we're in, but it's just a fairly normal definitely American city. And a man shows up, very much looks like a wild-eyed, crazed, homeless person or something like that. But he bursts in and declares that he is from the future and that the people he needs to prevent the horrible AI-driven apocalypse of the future. The combination he needs is somewhere in this diner, and he just needs to keep on trying various combinations of people until he finds just the right combination to prevent the AI apocalypse from happening. And so this isn't playing like Groundhog's Day. We do not see the same events over and over and over. He's already done these events over and over and over, and we're basically seeing what is intended to be the last time. He's already done this well over 100 times, and he's trying various combinations, and that's the basic premise that's going on. So that man is portrayed by Sam Rockwell, and he is a blast. He is the best part of this movie. But they also do the storytelling device of the group that he puts together. We sort of get their backstories as flashbacks. Okay. We go back a couple of weeks and see what they were doing, 12 days ago, 10 days ago, that sort of thing, and play that out. And I'll be honest with you, I thought the most entertaining scenes of this movie were those flashbacks. I thought those were really interesting because they're filling in what the world as he arrives to before the AI-driven apocalypse the world that we're seeing is different from, you know, literally our world today, but it's maybe just a small projection of just a little bit in the future. It's not wildly far away, and that's sort of the idea that's going on there. And so, yeah, I definitely enjoyed the backstory for Juno Temple's character. That was exceedingly satirical, and also there was a couple, both of whom are teachers. One is a substitute teacher, one is got a position at a high school, and that is disturbingly satirical for the way that they're portraying high school life in America in the very, very not too distant future. And so those scenes on their own, I thought were probably the most entertaining parts of this movie. But as a storytelling narrative, I did feel like, well, like that again, it's Gore Verbinski. Those scenes almost went on a bit too long, where it's like, wait, I'm kind of forgetting what was going on with Sam Rockwell until we come back to that, like, what is the overarching narrative of this movie. It was kind of like, yeah, we spent a substantial amount of time in the back story of each of these characters that he's put together, to the point that, you know, interspersing back to the main storyline, I was like, not that I was losing my place or getting lost, but it just felt like pretty long gaps in between advancing what is, you know, ostensibly the A plot of this thing. And then, you know, by the end, it all felt a little bit like a hat on a hat on a hat. Like, we're gonna have like 3 twists, you know. We're gonna have the twist that pretty much anybody could have guessed, you know, was very much foreshadowed, and then there's gonna be the other guess where you're like, are they actually going to do that? Is that the twist that they're going to do? Okay, that's the twist they're going to do. And then one more twist on top of that. You know, like, that's sort of the way, that's what I mean. Like, went on a fair bit too long. So yes, this movie would have benefited from being trimmed down, from being condensed, and maybe, honestly, focusing on the current time a little bit more than his descriptions of the future. Like, we don't need to know that much about the future. We just need to know that it's so bad that a man traveled back in time to try and stop it. Like, that's about all we need to know. We don't really need to get into the motivations of the AI or anything like that. It's like, okay, you can, you know, say whatever you want. We never are living there, and the whole idea is that we're going to stop it. So why do we need to hear about the AI's motivations or anything like it? It's going to turn out bad. That's all we really needed to know. So yes, could have been condensed out. So, it's not as though I was like upset watching this movie or anything. That there's absolutely entertaining in parts, but I didn't feel like overall it was like a big thumbs up. Like me, like I want to love the movies that I watch, right? The ones that I really give a high recommendation, I want to love them, and I didn't feel, you know, that way about it. It was kind of like, okay, I got a little bit, you know, rolling my eyes at it at the end, but I enjoyed the satire. I certainly enjoyed some of the performances, Sam Rockwell in particular. And yeah, that's my take on Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Let's see, audio video wise. Now, where did I watch this thing? I watched this on Apple. This was another rental for me because it's not on any of the streaming services just yet. So this was on Apple TV and streaming. I can't recall thinking that anything was like a big standout audio video wise. Certainly competently made. Gore Verbinski knows how to direct a movie in that way, but I can't recall ever sitting there and going, oh, that really was like a standout audio video moment or scene or something like that. So what I will say about like the special effects that are used is that nothing was the sort of CGI where you're like, oh, that's just a bunch of CGI. Like, everything looked like well produced, well made, and everything, seemed like it fit into the scenes and everything like that. So a very competently made movie, looked good and sounded good on Apple TV streaming, but wasn't a particular standout on a technological side either. There you go. Good luck. Have fun. Don't die.
Sounds interesting. All right. Like I said, I didn't really watch anything this week, but hopefully soon. I'm excited about it. I want to thank this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Come to the website and comment. No, you can't comment. Come to the website, see our shows, our show notes, our Flickr albums that have the pictures that we'll be referring to, as well as older shows. So if you want to catch up on some of the things we said before, if you're a bot, I guess you can go find other episodes where I said things to make you mad, and then you can comment on those as well.
Not that difficult.
It isn't. We're not super Heidi around here. We just kind of say it. Whatever comes to mind. Let's see here. You can find us on Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant. As Robert mentioned, you can see our recording sessions, and the Flickr album pictures will be integrated into that video so that you don't have to keep scrolling through them. You can just look over at the screen whenever we say something about a picture. You can contact us directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. I don't do
And
the
just
socials.
before we leave our contact info, I should mention, since I neglected to mention it when we were talking about the Sofabaton X1S giveaway, because we mentioned it twice in weeks prior. But yes, a question at avrant.com, our email address. That is the email to use if you want to enter that giveaway, that free giveaway we're going to be giving away 3 Sofabaton X1S remotes, doing that draw on May the 12th, just as a reminder. And no purchase necessary, no particular limitations, but a limit of 1 entry per person. That is the other rule that we're instating.
I would love to say that goes without saying, but you know that it doesn't go without saying. People.
I mean, I'm definitely sure we've left things out of things that we should have disclaimed and said, but
probably.
Whatever.
All right. I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. You can do one of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, which will take you to a PayPal donation site. PayPal will allow you to put in your PayPal account or a credit card and take whatever money you send them and send most of it to us. If you want to support us monthly, you can do that through PayPal, or you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast, where you can sign up to be one of our patrons. Minimum of $1 a month, so $12 a year, to listen to these voices talk about these things.
Yup.
Yay. I guess.
You've been introduced and warned at this point.
At this point, you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yes.
We're going to talk about audio, though, not the rest of that stuff. You can actually there's in the show notes you can skip through it. You can just
you definitely can.
You can find out exactly where to go to skip all of it.
Timestamps are your friend.
That's right. So you don't have to listen to us if you don't want to. So patreon.com/AVRant podcast. We currently have 121 patrons because the month flipped over and we lost 2. So update your credit cards for those of you that got dropped off. So 121 patrons currently.
That's right. Once again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 121 patrons over there. And you know what? I neglected to write down. There was someone who mentioned that they've been a patron for a while, and normally I like to give that shout out to the name, but I neglected to write that down here, and I don't recall who it was now. So I apologize, whoever's email came in this week and mentioned that they are.
Tell us again.
A patron.
We'll mention you next week. Or
that's right.
That's some other time. If you can't support us financially, we understand. Just support us in some way and let us know what you've done, and we will mention you here. Jack has offered to pay the shipping on the Sofabaton X1S remotes that we will be giving away. I don't know if he understands that we were going to give away more than one. I think maybe just one.
He definitely did. In the email that he sent, the number he said he was willing to pay the shipping for was well in excess of 3.
Of 3.
So, yes, that's right. He did put a limit on it, but he had no idea how many it was. And it was a crazily high number.
Jack gets an extra entry for that. No. He does not, actually.
Nope.
Not doing that. So Jack offered to pay the shipping on the sofa. So thank you very much, Jack. He's also a member of the original 2 Hour Plus Club. So the 2 Hour Plus Club, if you're not a member of it, you'll know because you'll say how to become a member, and no one will tell you. So that's okay. That's okay. Because there's more than one 2 Hour Plus Club. There's more than one club, and he's a member of the original one. Yep. And there's at least one more. I think there's 2 of them now. Right? Yeah. Is that right? I think there's 2. And eventually there'll be a third.
Yeah, there's been 3. There's been 3 total.
Have there been 3? So there's going to be 4 eventually. See, I don't even remember how many 2 Hour Plus clubs we have. We just do it every once in a while.
I think you can put it together. Yeah, the 2 Hour Plus Club means that, you are genuinely listening all the way to the end of the podcast, but it is at a completely random time when the ability to enter that 2 Hour Plus Club happens. We don't know when it's going to happen. You certainly don't know when it's going to happen. It is definitely not every episode, but
that's right.
But the only way it could possibly happen for you is if you listen to the very, very end of the recording for every single time, because otherwise you might miss it.
You might miss it. Could be anywhere in that 2 hours plus. Anywhere.
Yes. But I wanted to say, first of all, thank you to Jack, because it was an exceedingly generous offer that he made. I am also grateful to Sofabaton because it is not going to be necessary for Jack to cover the shipping costs. He said he did that because he heard me say last week how I was like, whatever, I'll cover the shipping costs to wherever it needs to go or whatever. He's like, no, I'm not going to let Rob do that. This is Jack's email. He's like, he'll cover the shipping costs needed, but no, Sofabaton is going to take care of us. So it all works out swimmingly for everyone. But yeah, fantastic generosity, and thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. So you got the benefit of the offer and none of the downsides of actually having to do it.
That's right.
So
that's the best. Maybe he was counting on that, but I really don't think he was counting on that based on what he emailed to us. It really sounds like he was genuine.
It's kind of like when I offer to help do something around the house, but I wait until the very last minute. And when it's almost done, it's like, look at that. I get the kudos for offering. But now I have to do it. Good job, Jack. You're a good husband. We also got some notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Greg, from Tom, from Prague Tom. He says he never did hang one of his subwoofers from his ceiling, which is something we said could solve his subwoofer placement issues. I would like to say I remember you, Tom, but I don't because I have recommended that more than once.
Right.
So
I have such a vague recollection of I definitely am not disputing it because I know we've said something to that effect, but I can't remember the details.
You're like, you've got a lot of stuff on your floor.
That's right.
How about you hang it from a ceiling?
Yeah.
Greg H., who says that despite being a big fan of Bach, he also can't stand the absolute sound as a publication, so he's in full agreement with Rob's comments about that from last week. So, all right. Again, it's just all the lies, really. Adam, Scott, Brian, and Troy. Troy's also a member of a 2-hour plus club. I don't remember which one. And since nobody else in Rob's household objected to him buying the Denon A1H receiver, that means it must have been perfectly okay. At least that was his logic when he was single. So there's nobody else in the household to talk some sense into you.
Took a vote.
He took a vote. And it was it was going to pass with either 100% yays or 100% abstains. And everybody abstained, so he bought it.
Yep, everyone was allowed to have their say. Went by majority rule. And in this household of one, what do you know? It turned out that the A1H purchase was approved.
That was notes of gratitude from Greg, Tom, Greg H., Adam, Scott, Brian, and Troy. Thank you for thanking us.
That's for sure. I'll say the names one more time so they came from my lips. We got Greg, Tom, Greg H. And once again, the original Greg's last name also ended with H, but it is two different Gregs, so I didn't know how to delineate them any better than that. But yes, aside from those three, Greg, Tom, Greg H, Adam, Scott, Brian, and Troy, thank you all so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement because we really appreciate them. A big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions. And I will say, amongst all of the Sofabaton X1S entries, there were definitely many people who were like, hey, thanks for the podcast and I enjoy what you do and that sort of thing. And I just ran out of time to go back through all of the entries and collect every single one of those. And but a big, big thank you to everybody who's entered because it's wonderful to see that response. We weren't expecting such a large response, and that's gratifying. So thank you to all of you for that.
We were pretty sure we were giving away 3, and at least at one point, one of us said it might be 100% win rate.
Yup.
Might just be 3 people. We might be down to 3 listeners. I mean, statistically, we must have at least 120 plus listeners because we've got that many patrons over at Patreon. But maybe people just forgot.
YouTube doesn't really seem to be counting repeat viewings anymore, and goodness knows how many people would repeat view our podcast on YouTube. But just given the viewing numbers, I'm like, there's got to be at least 100 people out there. That's got to be a given.
So in the news, this comes from our listener, Mark. He says, he didn't hear us mention this news, and since it affects him personally, he was very dismayed to read this. So he sent it to us. Sony announced that as of late May 2026, the Bravia A95L and Bravia 8.2 QD OLEDs, the Bravia 8W OLED, and the Bravia 5, 7, and 9 LCD TV models will all have the functionality of their built-in TV antennas and over-the-air set-top box integration reduced, and no particular reason was given other than we hate people.
I mean, this is actually a, update that's being sent out there, and if you've been using those things, you can't really avoid it because in order to use the guide, you have to be connected to the internet. So it's if you disconnect from the internet, you lose the functionality, and if you remain connected to the internet, you lose the functionality. So there's no win in this one on that way. Yeah.
So what's going to change? None of the channel logos or thumbnail images will appear anymore, but the main thing is the program guide is going away, because who uses a program guide? Why would anybody want that?
For, broadcast over-the-air television.
So the speculation online is that it's all to do with wanting owners to rely entirely on the Google TV interface so that Sony and Google can collect the tracking data and serve ads, but there's no concrete evidence to say for certain. Mark recognizes that most Sony TV owners probably never touch anything to do with the over-the-air broadcast, but since he does, he found this news devastating. If you told me that was the actual reason definitively that Sony did this, there was no bone in my body that would ever think that it wasn't true. So,
The clue is that, of course, they have the boilerplate logline, we apologize for the inconvenience that this might cause. And then they're like, but we encourage you to, use the Google TV interface and the free ad-supported television streams that are available through that interface. And I was like, okay, well, if that's what you're encouraging in place of this thing, seems like maybe that was the incentive on the business side to do it. But that is speculation. That is extrapolation. They did not say it, explicitly that that's what's going on.
Extrapolation from very damning evidence.
But yeah, this, people have been rightly, I would say, bemoaning the fact that it's actually getting pretty darn difficult to find any televisions, and we're talking flagship televisions here, not just the inexpensive ones, that are including ATSC 3.0 tuners, next-gen TV tuners. Almost all of the TV manufacturers have reverted back to only including ATSC 1.0 tuners. The whole just over-the-air broadcast television thing, it's like there hasn't been much in the way of encouraging news on that side of things in quite some time now. So, about the only... what can you even say? Because the integration that they had, if you have your own outboard set-top box, right? So you plug your TV antenna into a outboard set-top box and then plug that in via HDMI to your Sony television.
Right.
What's going away is before, if you did that, via HDMI, the Sony would recognize what type of device you've plugged in. And so it would label it as, TV antenna or set-top box or OTA or something along those lines. It would label it correctly as something that indicated it. And then using your Sony TV remote, you'd be able to control. You'd need HDMI CEC, of course, but you'd be able to control the set-top box and do everything that way. That functionality, that integration, it's all going away. It now just shows up as media device. You'll have the basics of HDMI CEC because that's standardized protocols, but you're just not going to have that guide integration anymore. That's what's really going away.
That sucks.
Yeah.
So the Society for Information Displays, or SID, S-I-D, held their annual display week this past week. Naturally, all of the newest generations of existing display technologies, which will likely show up in consumer and commercial displays next year, were being shown. But if you've been waiting for Electroluminescent Quantum Dots, which I did not know was a thing, so I was not waiting for it.
All right, okay.
Which is now being called ELQD rather than QDEL, or nano LED, whatever. LQD literally sounds like a terrorist organization. Just the way that it looks in front of me, I'm like, if you told me that this was the new ISIS, I would believe you. But whatever.
Well,
ELQD.
It's a rational initialism because it literally just stands for electroluminescent quantum dots.
Yes.
So, that makes sense. QDEL stood for the same thing, but quantum dot electroluminescent, which, isn't the way that we say it. So it was a better acronym was QDEL, but ELQD, the accurate initialism.
There's too many things.
Yes. Well,
anyways, there was good news and bad news about this. Okay, so the good news is...
I should give a quick description because
yes, do that.
To know what the heck we're talking about. So quantum dots are nanoparticles that absorb higher frequency, high energy, and then they absorb that energy and then they re-emit light at a lower frequency. So this is why in current quantum dot displays, what we'll have is a blue LED backlight or a blue organic LED, OLED backlight. That is the regular backplane that is blue LEDs or could even be blue lasers. but that is shining, and then we have a layer of red and green quantum dots in front of that, so they absorb the higher frequency, higher energy blue light from that LED backlight, that blue LED backlight, and then re-emit very pure red and green. So the notion has been, well, can we have just an electrical backplane, or some proposals have even used ultraviolet light, right? Even higher frequency, even higher energy than blue light, and not visible to our human eyes. So can we have something like that that will activate blue quantum dots? So now we don't have any LEDs, we don't have any OLEDs, we don't have anything else that's emitting blue light. We just have something that's even higher frequency, like ultraviolet, or just an electrical stimulation directly, and that will stimulate 3 different quantum dots, red, green, and blue. So the challenge has been that blue quantum dot. Blue is always the challenge, and then figuring out various ways of stimulating those blue quantum dots. But the idea is you can have exceedingly pure colors, very much akin to laser light source, these, the almost single wavelength type of light coming out there. So that's another method of getting to the full Rec 2020 color gamut, is via electroluminescent quantum dots. And then it is very, very energy efficient. It is more energy efficient than LEDs. And so that's what we're going for, is electroluminescent. I thought
the quantum dots aged differently, though. Isn't that one of the issues with these things?
I mean, organic LEDs age at different rates.
Maybe
that's been the whole thing. Quantum dots are very, very stable once they're properly formulated. Yeah, they don't really dim over time per se. So there's several advantages to them. And then the latest advances have been that they've been able to stimulate red, green, and blue quantum dots with a thin film transistor, a TFT. So you've seen TFT LCDs, right? We know how to make TFTs. That's a big part of this, is how much are we going to have to change manufacturing processes and product lines? How much our facility is going to have to be built or changed or retrofit in order to actually manufacture these things at scale. Well, if you can stimulate them with a thin film transistor backplane, like, we know how to make those, and we know how to make them really quite inexpensively at this point. And then quantum dots are definitely a display technology that can be inkjet printed. That is actually utilized today for the red and green ones, as well as just injecting them into a film layer, which is probably the way that it's going to start. But there are processes that aren't going to require massive invention and retooling. They're not going to have to build entirely new factories from the ground up. They're going to be able to retrofit existing display factories to produce these things. But we've been waiting, and we've been constantly hearing that, it's coming. Electroluminescent quantum dots are on the verge. So there's been good news and bad news.
Great. So anyways, the good news is that the ELQD development continues to show progress. Samsung Display has an 18-inch prototype that can produce 500 nits and is 96% of BT 2020 color. But the projection now is that ELQD displays won't hit the market until 2029. In one way, it's nice to finally have some sort of target date, since electroluminescent quantum dot displays have perpetually been just around the corner for the last few years. But it's pretty clear at this point, when ELQD displays do arrive, they won't be the brightest and they won't be the largest. And we have several more years yet with OLED and LCD. So there you go.
Yeah, so it's nice to have some, like, any kind of target date even mentioned, because it was constantly just, it's 5 to 10 years away, and then it was down to like 3 to 5 years away, and now like 2 to 3 years away. It's like, well, no, we're in 2026, so I guess, it's saying 2029, it's 3 years away. It's not really a change, but it's a little bit more specific, and we're getting these prototypes that are really quite usable. But yeah, the goal is to at least get them to 1,000 nits before they put them in consumer displays. And given that the prototypes that they're doing now are, all of them were under 32 inches in size, it's like, okay, they're probably going to show up in, I guess, laptops and tablets, and maybe modular displays, could be something like that. But the notion that we're going to have, 115-inch QD, electroluminescent quantum dots immediately is unlikely. That seems.
Yeah. So the brand new technology starts off in smaller displays. I am shocked by this.
Right. Yes. Who's ever heard of such a thing?
Who's ever heard of this? Comments. Infinite Gary. Last week, Rob said he didn't know what the PSB setting stood for on the old Panasonic RF 1080 radio that Gary found in his basement. It's the public service band used by police, fire, and other emergency services. I didn't think we were supposed to be listening into those things, but whatever. So in addition to the AM and FM, you could listen into those radio frequency broadcasts with that Panasonic model, which is what serial killers do. So, good thing you've got that, Gary.
This is a much older radio, and I guess probably making Gary even more upset that the power button is just completely stuck and he can't use it today.
And just to keep the running gag going at this point, this week's basement find was a 114-page training manual for the Panasonic PV1100 VCR. And look at this thing. It's got physical buttons and looks more like a cassette player than anything else. Those were the cool ones, though, because it was top loading. The thing would come out and stuff. Those are the ones I thought were cool when I was young.
It's like a gigantic NES, American version of the NES, that is.
Yes. So right on the inside cover, it warns that it's for engineers and service technicians, not end users. And one of the special features that is being able to reprogram it to extend the recording time up to 4 hours instead of just 2. Mm-hmm. So Gary recalls that he waited until Panasonic released the PV1500, which let end users easily select between 2 and 4 hour recording times instead of having to go into the service menus, apparently.
That's right.
He also found 4 conversational Japanese manuals, each conversational, I said that right, each about 15 pages long. Those were actually a complete surprise to him. It's your basement. But what do you mean?
This is his father's stuff. He inherited all these things for this, but it got the impression he didn't know that his dad had ever learned any conversational Japanese, and he had never noticed these manuals before. So all to do with his father having worked for Panasonic back in the day. That's why there's so many of these Panasonic products that Gary is unearthing in his basement as he goes through it week by week.
Our listener Jonathan got a kick out of the frank and honest press release for the new $99 Schiit audio buff RCA line level tube buffer. So it's SCHIIT for those of you that do not know. I'm not cursing.
No.
Okay, YouTube. So that company themselves say it is designed to wreck the measurements of high measuring gear by adding a, quote, a ton of low-order harmonic distortion, end quote. So naturally, they also say that while it intentionally adds harmonic distortion, it does not add a bunch of noise, quote unquote. And they claim, quote, lots of people think it sounds better, so we figured we make this thing and let you find out for yourself, end quote. So those people are just objectively wrong, but whatever. So anyways, fair enough, says Jonathan.
That's right.
It only provides left and right RCA inputs and outputs with a Class A line level stage and Panasonic. Oh, good. Panasonic's back in the news. Panasonic components
Gary's
inside.
Have to get them.
No. So you can select straight 0 dB gain, or you can add up a 12 dB of gain to the line level signal. And importantly, you can completely bypass this audio buff thing, BUF, by the way, without physically disconnecting it. Flick the bypass switch, and the RCA inputs get connected directly to the RCA outputs with nothing in between. So for $99, you can inject the tube sound, quote unquote, into your audio system without resorting to tube-based preamps or amplifiers. So they literally do give you a way to test whether or not you like the sound by doing this bypass, which I really kind of like.
That I think is kind of cool. And for $99, I'm like, if somebody is really curious about it, I'm like,
they want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a tube amp, they can get an idea of what that sounds like.
You could do a lot worse than this, right? And I mean, like, I appreciate that they're not in any way whatsoever trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Like, those quotes that talk, like, that is from their own press release, right? So when they say, like, we made this to wreck the measurements, it adds a ton of low order harmonic distortion, like, that's what I'm like, well, you can't say they're trying to sell snake oil here. It's just like, yeah, they told it like it is, and then I think it's wonderful that they included this bypass so you can do your own direct A/B comparison, instantaneous switch A/B comparison to tell whether or not you can hear the difference, and if you can't hear the difference, which one you prefer, because you're allowed to prefer that the tube, buffer stage in this case injected a bunch of harmonic distortion. You're allowed to prefer that. That's totally fine, and I think it's pretty cool that this gives you the choice for not an insane amount of money, very simple hookup, and you don't have to replace any of your other gear. You can continue using your solid state preamp and amplifiers and just alter the sound this way. I mean, you could do it with an EQ or some DSP as well, but hey, this is maybe a little bit more fun to people who enjoy doing it that way.
I mean, if you've got a record player, you might as well get this, as far as I'm concerned, and see if it makes those records
even
sound
more, because a record player inherently has a fair amount of that distortion going on.
It'll remind you exactly of listening to stuff in your dad's garage or whatever it's that people keep talking about their memories, whatever. All right, questions. Greg. Greg's room is about 16 by 20. 16 wide, 20 feet long, with a slightly vaulted ceiling that is 9 feet tall at the peak. His main seats are about 12 feet from the front speakers. He has a 5.1.4 speaker configuration. He's powering all 9 speakers with the built-in amps of his Onkyo TX RZ50 receiver. His speakers are the SVS Ultra Evolution Center, Ultra Evolution Nano Bookshelf, front, left, and right speakers. His surrounds are the SVS Prime Satellites, which I have as well. Mm-hmm. And his 4 overhead speakers are the Prime Elevations, which I also have. Mm-hmm. He's currently using a single SVS SB3000 Revolution sub, but he plans to take advantage of SVS's trade policy to replace it with a SB5000 Revolution, since he's found that he's able to reach the limits of the SB3000 in his space. Mm-hmm. Which... I mean, it's not that big of a space. I'm actually surprised. But it is a sealed sub, so yeah, I suppose that makes sense.
Possibly.
He didn't say whether or not his room was enclosed, but we can use that as a clue, which would indicate that it is not. Because in that room, you should not be able... I don't think you should be hitting the limits of this subwoofer. But
right. Now, I mean, if we were talking about an enclosed 16-foot wide by 20-foot long by roughly 9-foot tall enclosed room with an SB3000, and then you were measuring, right? Not necessarily listening, but measuring and attempting to hit 115 decibels at 20 hertz, then I would say, okay, yeah, an SB3000 just on its own, even in the enclosed space, is going to struggle to do that. So that could be what he's talking about. But in most scenarios, if you're going by what I'm hearing and feeling and experiencing versus measuring, I would venture that if that room were enclosed, an SB3000 is not going to noticeably reach its output limits. But if this room is not enclosed, then that makes a whole lot of sense. Yes.
Or if he just doesn't ever close the door for whatever reason. Like there's plenty of rooms that if you close the door, the pressurization of the room is going to make the door do crazy things. Or it's got like the glass plates in it sometimes for people using their office space as a room.
Mm-hmm. So in any case, this is not a small room. No. Even if it were enclosed, it's not a small room. But it's not, if it's enclosed, it's not a gigantic room, but it's not a small room. And then he's only sitting 12 feet away from his front speakers. So even though he's gone for the smallest bookshelf model in the SVS Ultra Evolution lineup, the Nano, from 12 feet away, it should have it might struggle to hit 105 dB. That's a possibility. It might struggle to hit 105 dB, but it's definitely going to go north of 100 dB. Prime Satellites as the surrounds, which we're making the assumption are physically closer than 12 feet, but maybe not a whole lot. So he's got a little bit of limitation in terms of maximum headroom. Maybe hitting 105 dB in this setup is going to be a challenge. Most people don't particularly enjoy hitting 105 dB. That is exceedingly, exceedingly loud, and we've got all this evidence now that it's really not even the intention of the remastered home release audio soundtracks to even hit 105 dB like you would at a full-size commercial cinema. They're aiming more for around 102 dB, that type of thing. So yeah, you're in that ballpark for all of this stuff, but it's what I'm driving at here is it's not inconceivable, if his goal is to hit cinema reference volume 105 dB, that this system might struggle a little bit. It'd be right at the edge if it's capable of doing it.
Right. 12 feet away is usually where you start wondering about whether or not your speakers are going to get loud enough for you.
That's right.
Just generally speaking. Yeah. So as we know, the RZ50 comes with DRAC. He's followed guides and managed to calibrate it so that with the master volume set at 0 dB, the pink noise test tones play back at 75 dB from all his speakers, as they should if you're targeting cinema reference volume. He finds that he typically listens with his master volume at net minus 10. But sometimes when he wants to show off a little bit, he'll turn it all the way up to 0.
Yeah.
He originally started with just the 5 Ultra Evolution and Prime satellite speakers. He added the 4 Prime Elevation speakers later. Back when it was just the 5 speakers, he thought it sounded detailed and clear. After adding the 4 Prime Elevation speakers, he found he really enjoyed the addition of Atmos overall, and he thinks that this is a genuine upgrade, and he highly recommends it. But he does think that, ever since adding the elevation speakers, his front 3 speakers don't sound quite as detailed as they used to. And his normal minus 10 master volume setting, he still likes the way it sounds, but when he cranks it up to 0, his speakers seem to lose their composure a bit. So, would adding an external amp help in the situation? Is he correct in his suspicions that adding the 4 elevation speakers was a bit too much of an additional power draw on the RZ50's built-in amps? He's thinking his ideal would be to just power the front 3 speakers with an external amp and let the RZ50 handle the rest, but will it be enough? Will he need a 5-channel or a 7-channel amp to get back the detail and clarity he was originally enjoying with just 5 speakers powered by the RZ50? There's a lot to talk about here.
There is, yeah, and because this honestly, genuinely, is not completely cut and dry.
Yes,
so that's why there's a lot to talk about. Yeah.
So, all things being equal, right? Could he be, by adding the 4 extra speakers, could he be running out of power in his AV receiver when they're all playing together at the same time, and that's why he's noticing this lack of resolution or whatever it is he says he's
detail
missing.
And clarity are the subjective terms he used.
Yeah. Could be. It could
That's the
be.
thing. Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
It's not out of the question. He's sitting at the limits of what the front speakers can objectively put out enough power to do. He's sitting right there at the limits. And then AV receivers are generally rated into 2 channels. And they aren't really meant to be played all channels driven. Not that that's exactly what's happening here, but it is theoretically possible that that is what's happening. But there's a bunch of confounding variables that are going on
there sure
here.
Are.
So he's added 4 more speakers. So is it just the lack of power, or is it the fact that he's now got wave interference from more speakers playing at the same time, all coming from the same, generally speaking, going towards the same location, which is the center
because he added prime elevation, so I don't know if he mounted them high on his walls or if he did ceiling mount them, but either way, adding front height / top front, something of that sort of position, elevated and in front of you somewhere. Having those playing at the same time as your front 3 speakers, even if everything had no additional distortion, no problems with reaching headroom capability or anything like that, just having those additional speakers in front of you and playing along with the front, left, and right speakers, that can be enough to potentially cause what sounds to your human ear brain system like a loss of detail and clarity. Having more sources of sound can cause, it could be literal sound wave interference, but can also just sometimes be confounding. Just like as you have more and more people speaking to you, it becomes more and more difficult to pinpoint one voice out of the group.
That's right. And we haven't really heard anything about what the room looks like or what other things that are in it. So is there any room treatments in here?
Exactly.
If they are, where are they placed? That sort of thing. All of that can, again, like what Rob said, having more sources of sound coming towards you, could there be destructive or, let's just say, interference of the sound waves themselves to make the coherence that he was looking for from his front speaker experiencing before be less coherent and less detailed? Maybe. Or maybe it's just the fact that there's another thing in the room that's distracting his brain from focusing on the front speakers.
But like if this room is not particularly acoustically treated, like you have objectively added more reflections into this room, and so that could be on its own. What's going on here is that the addition of more reflected sound, you've now raised the ratio, or whatever it is. There's more reflected versus direct sound now, and that could be what's going on. Yeah.
So we won't get to I know, because he's got another question here. But or maybe we should just say
before we get
possible,
to that, if you're willing and able to try an experiment, because it doesn't do much good to say, well, disconnect the prime elevation speakers and go back and see if because the other thing is, we don't know if he changed any positioning of the speakers he used to have when he added the 4, because very often you're like, well, I'm adding more speakers and I'm also going to adjust some of my other speakers. Didn't say that he did that, but that's not out of the realm of possibility. It's a pretty common thing that people do. So, you might just say, oh, try disconnecting the 4 elevation speakers they added and go back to the 5 they had and see if that detail and clarity is actually still there. But then you've removed I'm also powering 4 additional speakers, all from the same receiver. If you're able to do this, if you have some long enough speaker wires that you could do this, like keep the 4 elevation speakers physically connected to the receiver, but get them out of the room. Right? So they're still going to play, but they're not going to contribute sound and reflections to the room that you're in. I mean, that means getting some crazy long speaker wires.
I know. That's not an easy ask.
Exactly. But I'm just saying, if you really want, because that getting a bunch of long speaker wire, and it doesn't have to be particularly thick gauge speaker wire, like that's a lot cheaper than buying an external amplifier. So this is still a worthwhile experiment. Or maybe you have a gigantic 500-foot spool sitting around in your basement, and you can do this very, very inexpensively. But what I'm saying is, if you can run that experiment, you'll be able to determine that way. All 9 speakers are still playing and still being powered by the AV receiver, but you have physically moved the 4 overhead speakers out of the room, and you're playing, and you're like, oh, well, now it sounds just as clear as it ever did. Well, now it's not that you've reached the limits of your amplifier power or even the limits of the speaker output. It's that having the additional speakers is what's causing that loss of clarity. So to me, that's a worthwhile experiment to try.
You could try that. That would at least tell you whether or not the amp would make an appreciable difference.
That's right.
We do need to know a little bit more about the room, because chances are step 1 would be to add room treatments, like full stop. If you don't have them, that would be step 1, just to see if that makes a difference. That being said, adding room treatments, and if you're at the limits of what your speakers can output, you might find that you're now no longer able to output enough sound, because
it's
sound
only going to sound a little quieter, not louder.
Yeah,
maybe
the sound
clearer,
will be absorbed. It'll be clearer, right? Exactly.
It'll be clearer, but
it'll
quieter.
be clearer, but it'll be softer because there won't be as many reflections.
That's right. Yeah.
So
total amount of sound hitting your ear.
No matter where because of the setup, it very much sounds like, if you don't have room treatments in here, the solution is adding room treatments, which will cause another problem that will cause you to have an amp, to buy an amp. And yes, the answer to the amp almost certainly is just power your front 3 speakers with the amp, and the rest.
That one we can answer right away. Yeah. There's not going to be a necessity to go beyond a 3-channel amplifier. That is going to be sufficient. I'm very confident in saying that. But yes, we're all driving at it. It is possible. We're willing to say that it is possible that you actually are reaching the limits of the headroom of the amplification that's available. And I will say from experience, when you start driving the maximum number of speakers that the AV receiver can power itself, like just physically is able to connect and power itself, it's like I can demonstrate that the noise floor does creep up a little bit once you connect all 9 speakers to all 9 amplifiers that are built in. Yeah. The noise floor does creep up. So like it's not out of the realm of possibility that it is the amplifiers, and that adding an external amp genuinely could help. But to me, it's worth running the experiment first to see if it's worth spending that money.
Yeah. So we found a YouTube video where they mentioned that adding an external amp specifically to the RZ50 can result in clipping due to low voltage output from the RZ50's pre-outs. He doesn't completely understand what was being said. Could we explain more clearly and let him know if adding an external amp to his RZ50 is going to be a problem? So what they're talking about is some amplifiers so the voltage output that's coming from the RCA outs on the RZ50 come out at a certain level, a certain volume, if you will, or voltage. And some amplifiers want more than the RZ50 will put out, which will cause the amp to go into
it'll clip.
It cause the amp to clip. Yeah. So what you just have to do is make sure you're buying the right amp, and then you won't have this problem.
Yes. Yeah, so certainly, and you know what? Like one of my favorites that I've recommended frequently recently, Buckeye amplifiers. You'll notice that if you read the descriptions in full, they offer quite a few options for the gain stage on the input of their amplifiers, and some of them require a lot of voltage to get to full power, and that could be a problem for the RZ50. The RZ50, it was measured that its pre-outs for all of its speaker channels, it can output up to 3.5 volts, which is not the highest, right? Pretty much all the Denon and Marantzes by default put out at least 4 volts, and quite often more than that. The Onkyo RZ50 tops out right around 3.5 volts, but if you are using Dirac or any of the other processing, it actually reserves a little bit of headroom. So realistically, you're getting about 3 volts as sort of the upper end coming out of there. And that is definitely enough for many, many external amplifiers, right? There's a lot that need 2 volts maximum, or maybe 2.5 volts. And as long as you can provide that from the pre-outs, those amplifiers will not clip, and they'll be able to get to their full wattage rating with 2 to 2.5 volts. But it is certainly not even difficult to find amplifiers that do need more than 3 volts to get to their full rated power. And if you don't have that available, it is possible to make those amplifiers clip. So it's not like this warning that was given on that YouTube video was like way out to lunch. It's like it is entirely possible to buy readily available amplifiers that require more than 3 volts to reach their full rated power. But there's many, many that don't require, even 3 volts. 2 or 2.5 is well enough. And the RZ50 can absolutely deliver that. So it's just making sure that you get an amplifier that says, hey, to reach full rated power, I need around 2.5 volts, something like that. You'll be very safe if you choose that.
Right. Yeah. So Gurinder. Gurinder is looking forward to the Sofabaton X1S draw. Any chance we'll do a free giveaway of a Denon X3800H receiver? No.
I'm going to say no. Yes.
I mean, there's always a chance someone have to give one to us.
Can't literally say it's 0%, but when no
it's
plans.
Approaching and 0, yes.
That's right.
So he asks, what causes an occasional static type noise to come out of a speaker anyway? He's never been able to nail down exactly what's causing his front right speaker channel to output what sounds like static every once in a while. It's definitely not constant and not even frequent, but it happens occasionally and only from that particular position. He tried swapping his front left and right speakers, and the noise stayed in the front right position. So that pretty much eliminates the speakers as themselves as a culprit. Correct? He asks, and the answer is yes, you have.
I would say so.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes. He also tried swapping the speaker wires, and the noise stayed in the front right. And then he tried swapping the cables between his Marantz SR6012 receiver and his B&K amp that is powering the front speakers, and the noise always stayed in the front right.
Yeah.
So if it's not the speakers themselves, and it's not the speaker wires or the cables between the receiver and the external amp, so it's either going to be the amp or the front right pre-out of the Marantz, correct? But either way, what actually causes that type of static noise? It's usually a short in the speaker wire, which I would have said it was.
Well, I mean, not a full-on short, because a short would usually shut it down and go into protection mode. So I wouldn't say it's a full-on short circuit. That would be a little bit unusual. So, I mean, one, it can actually be like radio frequency interference. That is a possibility, and it could even explain why it's intermittent and infrequent. It could just be that for whatever reason, like it could actually be the front right speaker itself, because it acts as an antenna, right? The speaker wire that goes between your speaker and the amplifier, that acts as an antenna, and maybe just that position in the room is just close enough to some kind of wireless device somewhere else in your house that every once in a while it just manages to pick up that wireless signal, and I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if it's
that reminds me of what used to happen in my kitchen whenever the microwave would go off and my speaker would crackle.
Now, normally, I don't know if I describe it as a static type sound. It's almost kind of like a zzz type of sound that usually comes in from that type of wireless interference. So if it's more like the classic static scratchy type of sound, I mean that is just some kind of noise is infiltrating the electronic components. Usually, it's on the low power end of things. It's a little bit unusual to be able to pick up that type of static type noise on the high power end of things, which leads me to suspect it's either going to be on the pre-out of your Marantz, or it could be on the input of the B&K amplifier. It's a little bit unlikely that it's on the actual amplifier output of the B&K. It's not utterly impossible, but it's a little bit unusual. Normally what's happening though is that there is some noise getting injected in the signal on the low power side of things, and then that is getting amplified, which is why you're hearing it come out as static noise from your speakers. So that's typically what's going on there. So that can genuinely be like dirt. Physical dirt. It can be that. You'll often notice that if you, say, take an RCA plug that's, plugged into the pre-out of your AV receiver, and while it's playing, you just kind of twist it a little bit, like you can usually make that static happen, right? So that means it's a physical connection issue where it's just getting a little bit of interruption in the signal electrically while you do that. So you could even play with that a little bit. I do it at, kind of low power, so you're not risking like a massive pop or something like that. But you could kind of just twist, and it could, like I say, it could be on the amplifier input end, it could be on the pre-out end on the AV receiver. But if you do just a little bit of twist while it's playing, and you're like, yeah, I can reliably make that static happen by just doing a little twist on this plug, it's like, that can just be a physical connection, literal bit of dust and dirt issue. So that's quite often what's going on. Or it can be a slightly loose connection on either side. That's a very common culprit too.
So the one thing he has not mentioned that he tried was to take the amp out of the situation.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what would be my first thought. Like, let's get this amp out of here and just connect the speaker directly to the receiver and see if that makes a difference. Because then you're getting all the pre-outs out of the situation and the amplifier out of the situation. Yeah. And then see if it fixes it alone. But other than that, I agree with what Rob said. I mean, physically turning the RCA cable connection is very easy to do. And if once you find it, then that's it. So I do like that. Yeah. Infinite Gary. As we know, Gary has had the most of the displays that he owns professionally calibrated. He's still using his Runco projector in his main theater, and it doesn't do HDR or even 4K. It's 1080p SDR DLP projector with an LED light source. And he has a few OLED TVs, and at least a couple of those have been professionally calibrated, and they do 4K and HDR. But if he plays the same HDR content on his Runco projector, on his Runco projector, and then immediately switches over to OLED, the rendition of color just doesn't look identical. To his eyes, the Runco still looks more natural, more like real life. There's no way we're ever going to convince Gary that that's not true. So
I know.
Let's just get past that. So to his mind, that means it must be more accurate. Oh, really? Is that what you think? Anyways, so it's not a gigantic difference, but it's always puzzled him that colors do not look the same even when the same professional calibrator has worked on both displays. Does the Runco have more or higher or better, and these are all in quotes, by the way, color representation than the OLED TVs, or what else is going on that leads to this perceptual difference in RGB color, with the much older DLP projector still looking better to him in his opinion? I mean, you answered your question right there. It's just in your opinion, and there's a time difference between you running between the different rooms to make this happen.
Right. But there's the validity of, if the idea of professional calibration is that all of my displays are hitting the same color points, and this is all within SDR containers, so we're not talking about trying to go to a wider color gamut by switching over to HDR. This is all SDR content. Like, why don't the colors look exactly the same? Like that's we can distill it down to that, which is a completely legitimate question to ask. So we've responded to a similar question from Gary before, which is that this could be partially the environment, right? Because when you're professionally calibrating a direct view display like an OLED, that meter is right on the television. They're measuring directly the light coming out of the television. As soon as that light comes out into your room, and your room is maybe not a perfectly neutral gray tone on all the walls, maybe there's some other light source in the room with the OLED, all of that can skew your perception of color. I've said before, you can kind of think like the cones in your eyes of being like light buckets, and they can get biased and they can get filled a little bit. If your room has, slightly color tinged walls, it's going to change your perception of the color that you're seeing coming from the display. So that is maybe the number one culprit. The other major culprit that is almost certainly the case is that we know Gary likes to watch his displays really quite dim on the dimmer side of things. But more than that, when colors coming from a display get brighter and brighter, our perception of the hue of that color changes. So there is zero question that even with Gary's preferred settings, his OLEDs are brighter than his DLP Runco projector. And so your perception of the brightest red, green, and blue that your OLED are producing, your perception of those, even though you could measure with a meter and it will say the wavelength of this light is the same, our human eye perception of it is not completely equal. We perceive different brightnesses of the very same wavelength. We perceive it as a slightly different color than, just the wavelength alone. The amount of luminance makes a difference to that, and your DLP projector is always dimmer. In addition to that, contrast plays a role in our perception of color. So if you have a very, very dark thing or a pure black next to a completely saturated red, green, or blue, then you have a not completely black, a slightly gray tone with its own little bit of color that's coming from it being a slightly gray tone. Next to that exactly same saturated red, green, and blue, that difference in contrast, our brain perceives the color as being slightly different. We've all seen the optical illusions, right? Where it's like the color remains the same, but the color next to it changes, and our perception of the color that stayed the same the whole time, we don't perceive it as having stayed the same the whole time, even though the meter can tell us that that's the exact same wavelength. It never changed, but our perception absolutely changes. So all of those things, it can be all of those things literally combined, or it could be one or two of them, but all of those can change our perception of the color, even though the objective meter used by the professional calibrator says this is the same wavelength of red, green, and blue that's coming out, but our human eye brain system will not perceive it the same due to the other factors around it.
Yeah. That's it for him. There you go. Leighton. Thankfully, Leighton got a big kick of our discussion last week about his heavily treated home theater and the low decay times that he measured in Room EQ Wizard as a result. And you know what, Leighton? Let me ask you a question before we get to your question. Let me ask you a question. Every once in a while throughout the internets, somebody will post that stupid thing about how in the world's quietest room, which is just an anechoic chamber, of which there is multiple around the world. I don't understand why they think there's just one of these. But in an anechoic chamber, nobody can stay in there for more than a half an hour because they go insane. People go nuts if they say that.
Because it's a fun thing to say.
Yeah. How long do you think you could stay in an anechoic chamber? Because my answer is infinity amount of time I could live in there. Thank you very much.
I think that's a psychological question more than anything, because if you're the sort of person who, left alone with your own thoughts and nothing to distract you, goes insane, well, then that's going to happen to you.
It's going to happen to you in this room for sure. But as somebody who is got something as close to an anechoic chamber as anybody's ever going to experience in their own house,
I mean, that's
how long
really
can
not
you
true.
stay in there?
This is definitely not an anechoic chamber. It's not even close to being an anechoic chamber.
So he did want to start off with a correction. We seem to say dry and dead interchangeably when describing the acoustics and decay times of his room, but that's not correct, is it? He'd agree with dry has very low decay times, but as we pointed out ourselves, they are very even across almost the entire frequency range. Dead, as he understands it, is used to describe very damped treble and sometimes upper mid-range with an uneven decay time, sometimes including very long decay times in the bass. So a dead room has very muffled details but can simultaneously have ringing, muddy bass. I've literally never heard it described this way. I've never heard it described this way. Anyways, whereas a dry room has very low decay times, but uniformly so across the board, and therefore doesn't suffer from the same lack of detail and overall unpleasant sound. Any comments on that? You are defining things in a way that you understand them, but that doesn't necessarily mean anybody else understands them in the same way.
I have seen that. Typically, yes. Dead means that there's a lack of treble energy. That is certainly, I'll agree with that. Dry is the correct technical term, right? We talk about dry rooms or wet rooms, which is kind of funny to say, but that does describe in an almost more technical sense, that it is uniform decay times. So yes, it is absolutely technically correct to say that his room, by the measurements that he provided to us, is a dry room. Whether or not you would subjectively describe it as dead means that, I place something in here and you can almost just get the sound, it just sounds dead in here. It sounds like there is no life to this room. It sounds like there is no no reverberation, nothing at all. It's just a dead sounding room. So yeah, there is a slight difference there, but yeah, that's about it. That's my comment on that.
Yeah, I clicked off of the link because I thought you were going to talk for longer. Yeah, so I mean, I've never heard this distinction personally. I've never really had it. I think I've always heard. In fact, I don't even remember saying the word dry. To be honest with you, I've always said dead, meaning a room that's heavily dampened. And maybe
we should change that though. The correct technical term is dry or wet. They don't use dead or live in the technical description of it.
Yeah. Well, and the more casual world, I will then say. Yes. Dead and live has to do with reflections, the amount of them, regardless of frequency response. It's just the deader the room is, the fewer reflections there are. The liver a room is, the more reflections there are. Yeah. So, anyways. So after our comments last week, it's not opposed to maybe removing some panels, but which ones? The ones that would fit best in my room?
There you go.
Just send them to me.
Outside influence.
I actually don't need them to fit in my room. I'm going to take them all apart and build my own. Thank you very much. That being said, okay. He really does not intend to remove any of the corner base trapping in the 4 vertical corners of his room. He really, really does not want to have anything even approaching boomy base. And that's what makes him adverse to removing too many panels. But he could envision taking down panels that are straddling the ceiling and side walls, or more likely replacing those with smaller panels instead. But what else could we or would we suggest? Let me go back and look at this thing. I would take off almost everything on that ceiling. Let's start with that. It's just a good place to start. So all this stuff that's straddling a corner, just in general, I mean, that is what is helping primarily with your base. It's helping other things too. Yeah. But primarily that's where the base.
Including those panels that are on the wall to ceiling corner there.
Any corner. So
yeah, those aren't the ones I would remove. No. I'm including the ones he suggested that he might remove or just shrink in size. I'm like, no, I definitely wouldn't shrink them in size. What's the point of that? That is only going to potentially make things a little bit more uneven. I would rather have an exceedingly dry room that is uniform versus one that becomes a little bit uneven. So I wouldn't shrink them. Completely taking them down, maybe, but like those aren't really the issue to me. I would kind of keep all of the corner base trapping as it is. I'd be looking at something else to potentially remove and just raise the overall decay times a little bit in this room.
I mean, just glancing at these pictures, I mean, so I would keep the first reflection points of the front speakers.
In this setup, probably, because he doesn't have symmetrical left and right walls. No. And so, that kind of makes sense. And those ones, I mean, they're honestly, they're nice and thick. Like, they're the type that I would hope that people could, actually mount, but they're not, like, overly thick that they're, like, overly deadening this room or drying out this room, if you want to say it that way. So, in this case, the first reflection ones do kind of make sense.
So, I would take down everything on the ceiling that's not straddling a corner. Let's start with that. That's just me. I would take down probably the things on the walls that aren't a first reflection point. The ones above the TV into the side, like the combo panels you have up there, I would take those down to start with.
I would actually strongly consider moving the combo panels down so that they're directly behind the speakers.
Yeah.
And removing the ones that are currently directly behind the speakers. So I definitely want treatments behind the speakers, but it makes a whole lot of sense.
He's almost got them with the corner panels that are like right there.
I know, right?
Doesn't need a whole lot more.
But he also has those brown ones right behind the TV and right behind the speakers that are not combo panels. Like right behind your speakers on the front wall is the place to use combo panels or the range limiter panels or the covered in suede that is more absorptive in the bass than it is in the treble, because you don't have a whole lot of treble reflecting backwards from the speakers. You do want to catch the boundary interference, and so you want absorption directly behind the speakers. But that's the place to use combo panels. So I would move the combo panels down and remove the brown panels that are back there. And hey, those are the ones that don't match the aesthetic of the rest of your room, so that makes sense.
There you go. We're helping. And then I would start getting rid of every other panel that isn't a first reflection point. So I would take the one off the door just because it irritates me that it exists at all. And I guess on the back wall, where's the back wall in these pictures?
I mean, the back wall kind of looks okay, honestly.
Yeah, the back wall's all right.
He was talking about adding more to the back wall because there's a little bit of visible wall space above the panels he already has. I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that.
No, I would almost say that you. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would. And it's hard to see what some of these. There's so many things in here. It's hard to see what some of them are.
I mean,
but
that couch is not doing nothing either.
Yes,
that couch is doing a little something too.
Yeah. So on the side walls to the right next to the corner panels, it looks like there's something else there. I don't know what that is. Are there speakers? Is it speakers and then a panel above them?
Yeah, there's a panel above the surround speaker.
I would get rid of those
to the corner of the trap.
Too.
Yep.
Just seems like too much going on right there. Yeah. That's where I guess that's pretty much where I would start, and then start taking some measurements.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be a good place. I think that would be a good start. Yeah.
I think that covers it.
Yeah. And then take some measurements and see what it looks like. And then hopefully these things aren't like, because I'm afraid those ones on the ceiling are like stuck there. They're not, you know what I mean? They're not hanging. They're like double-sided.
Adhered.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, the diffusers are doing next to nothing regardless, so you don't have to take the diffusion panels down if that's a pain.
They're kind of ugly, though. They're kind of really ugly.
But they're acoustically doing next to nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Scott has a big open great room. It has vaulted ceilings in some corners, but it's basically 32 feet by 32 feet with the peak of the vaulted ceiling of being 15 feet. It's all bare, flat, reflective surfaces. And about the most absorptive thing in the whole space is the rug under the low back couch, and the couch itself, unless the couch is wood.
This is not an absorptive acoustic. This is the opposite of the last room that we were looking at.
You could actually take all the acoustic panels that are in that other room and put it in this room, and it would make a massive difference.
You sure could. And honestly, you could take all of the treatments from the last question, put them in this space, and it probably wouldn't be enough. So that's where the difference between...
the other room isn't ridiculously small compared to this. But anyways, nevertheless, he'd like to improve the sound system that goes along with the TV, and his wife finally agreed with the idea of adding some more speakers. Okay. So he's currently got a pair of... That's not where I thought this question was going.
Okay.
Adding some, and I thought it was going to say acoustic panels, and then it said more speakers after that. So it was a little... That's why it went up a couple of octaves as I read it. He's currently got a pair of Revel Concerta M12 bookshelf speakers and an unnamed subwoofer. Whenever people have an unnamed subwoofer, they're embarrassed and they don't.
That's not sweet. He just didn't happen to say what the subwoofer was in his question, and I couldn't quite determine it from the photos that were sent. So I'm just saying it's an unnamed subwoofer. There is a subwoofer. It's a 2.1. It's not a 2.0, but I don't know what the subwoofer is.
So his intention is to add the matching Revel Concerta C12 center speaker, but he's unsure what more he'll do after that. He's got $500 ready to spend right now. That doesn't sound like enough for a Revel speaker in general, but maybe it is. And he'll have more money to put towards audio in this room in December. At Christmas time, huh? Are you getting money for Christmas? Because that's the only way that makes sense to me. Usually you're broke at Christmas. Given the wide open back of the TV area and a strong aversion to there being any visible speaker wires, he was thinking to install some speakers in the ceiling. He knows we've recommended the Sonance Mag series in-ceiling speakers along with their backer box enclosures. He's assuming the larger Mag 8 would be the correct choice in his room, ? A pair of those would fit within his budget right away. But should he stop at 5.1, or does it make sense to aim for Atmos? Sorry. No. I mean, you can't put all the speakers on the ceiling and have
I'm gonna say
different speakers.
I'm going to say a flat no to aiming for Atmos in this room. I genuinely am.
Yeah. Maybe not immediately, but down the road when the budget allows, unless you can figure out a way to make a speaker that can be next to your couch. To be surround speakers, there's no way you're getting Atmos in here. It just doesn't. They'd be right next to each other. The surround speaker and the Atmos speaker would be on the ceiling next to each other.
You've got enough uncontrolled reflections to deal with. You don't need more sources of sound at what are going to be angles from this angled ceiling, adding more reflections that have nothing to do with the dialogue. It's not the room for Atmos. 5.1 would be plenty of speakers in this room.
But maybe you should stop at 5.1 Atmos, maybe not immediately, but down the road when the budget allows. He was thinking he could mount a pair of on-wall surround speakers to the side walls, straight to the sides of the couch position, and then could have up to 4 in-ceiling speakers for Atmos. No, don't do this. Nope. Don't do this.
Stop it.
And it's even if you had the speakers right next to your couch, like on stands with wires just laying on the ground like an animal.
Yes.
It's still the more reflection, because everything's so reflective. I mean, the ground's tile or wood or whatever that is.
Wood or laminate, definitely.
Yeah, it's just going to be sound bouncing around all over the place. It's just going to confuse your ear. So what do we think? Will the Sonos Mag 8 be a decent match for his Revel front speakers? I don't think it's going to matter. It's not going to matter.
I'll say yes regardless, and then in this room, you could put just about anything, and you'd never be able to hear the timbre mismatch.
Would something like the SVS Prime Elevation speakers be a good timbre match to the Revels and Sonos speakers if we were to add them as surrounds in the future? I mean,
they're perfectly fine.
They're fine, but don't do it. And once he has that additional money to spend in December, should he look to spend it on more speakers, or would we say he should try to improve the room acoustics with that money? Yes,
heavens, yes.
Let's just do this first and stop looking at speakers and start looking at room acoustics, please. Can we do this first?
Like in this room,
I'm so sorry.
literally. Anything anywhere can only help you in terms of acoustic treatment of some sort. So
the question is, like if you slapped a couple of panels up on the wall someplace, would it objectively make the room better? The answer is yes. Right. Would it subjectively make your experience better? The answer is probably not.
You need a considerable amount to genuinely get this room under anything resembling control. But
this is one of the rooms, one of the questions, one of the things that I have to look at, and I think to myself, the answer is not more. The answer is less. Like, you want to have a better sonic experience. Your answer is not to add more sound to this room. Your answer is to have sound that is less in some way. So that means a more directed sound, if you could, something that is has less wide dispersion, because that's just sending sound in more directions, and God help you, because it's going to be coming back to you in every single direction anyways. So not adding more speakers, actually having better speakers that are more targeted towards your specific listening area.
Right.
But in the end, you're still going to have to deal with this room, which is not going to be optimal no matter what you do. So, yes, start with acoustics if you can. I don't know how you're going to do this, because I've tried multiple times with multiple people to convince them that they can put acoustic treatments in their room and it will look just fine. If they get the printed panels or whatever, or however they want to do it. And invariably, they buy something that could have been an acoustic panel. It is a piece of art that they got from like Pier 1 that I was like, you could have got this. It is almost the right thickness.
Yes.
This could be a printed panel, and you instead have chosen not to, and now you're going to ask me how to make your room sound better.
I mean, he's got a little bit of art on the walls there down in the dining room. There's a little bit already there. Though those could be panels. There's plenty of wall space, even if you only want to confine it to the TV viewing area. Like, literally anything anywhere in this room will help, and there's plenty of wall space where it wouldn't look out of place to have some kind of decoration, and that decoration should be a panel. I'll just the favorite phrase, answer the question as wrote, ROTE. So he's marked on his walls here and in the diagram like the potential positions that he was considering. So if he went for side wall surround speakers, they're elevated. They're up there. And so I'm thinking, since he wants the easiest installation with no visible wires, I'm like, I don't really have a problem if you're dead set on adding some speakers here. One pair of in-ceiling speakers. Yes, I would go for the most output that you can get. So the Mag 8s, between the Mag 6 and the Mag 8, I would choose the Mag 8 in this situation. Like the positions that you've marked that are a little ways behind the couch, just using those as surround speakers firing down from your ceiling. Like, if you were to go and add any speakers, those are the ones I would do. And then even if you have the fear of, I desperately want to add more speakers in the future, well, you've added ones that can be repurposed as something else, and you don't have to like physically move anything. So if you're going to do it, a pair of Mag 8s on those ceiling positions that are behind the couch, that's what I could get behind if you're dead set on adding speakers. But do room acoustic first. That's much more important.
Yeah. Like you said, even if you just do it in this little alcove that you've got your theater in, it'll be better than nothing. It's still going to be ringing around the rest of the house. But what are you going to do?
And counter to the previous question, if you were to put panels on the ceiling of this space, that would make a whole lot of sense. But that's probably not the look you're going for.
Joe has a lovely dedicated theater room. It's 27 by 17 by 8 with full carpeting and an additional rug in front of the seats, plus acoustic panels lining the angled part of the ceiling above and behind the seats. Wow, he's got a lot of panels up there.
Yes, but really quite sensible, because even though there's the pattern on the walls, I don't think that's any type of acoustic treatment on the walls.
No.
But because you've got wall-to-wall carpet plus an additional rug on what is going to be the first reflection point between the front speakers and the seat, the floor bounce, taking care of that. And then you've got these, he's got this angled ceiling behind him, but he's taking care of the reflections there by all of these panels spread across that. So I think you've done a very nice job without, ruining the aesthetics of this room. Nicely done.
Yeah, he's got some at least one wall panel that I can see in here.
Okay. Behind the seat there. Yeah.
Behind that one seat. I don't know why they get the good sound. But anyways, he's running a 5.4.4 configuration with a Perion Veris Grand V8 towers in center and a Perion Veris Grand V6 bookshelf surrounds. He's got 4 in-ceiling speakers and then 2 SVS PB 2000 Pro subs up front and 2 PC 2000 Pro cylinder subs in the back. Those cylinder subs actually serve as the speaker stands for his surround speakers just behind the seats. Ah, yes.
Nicely
the
done.
old 2-in-1 like that.
That's right.
This whole speaker system is processed by a Marantz AV8805 Pre-Pro, and all the amplifiers are from Emotiva. He recently got a new... a new XPA DR2 differential reference 2-channel amplifier, which is rated to output 800 watts into 4 ohms, and his front pair of Perion Veris Grand V8 towers are rated at 4 ohm. Did I say 4 ohms before?
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
4 ohm nominal with 91 dB sensitivity, or 2.83 volts and 500 watt power handling. He's using all XLR cables between his Marantz and his Emotiva amps, which look nice, but are really not that important to use.
And I'll just say it right now. The Marantz Pre-Pro, even though it's all XLR outputs, it's not actually a balanced Pre-Pro. It's still single-ended coming out of those XLR connections. So having the differential reference balanced amplifier, in this case, not actually utilizing that in any way, but it's perfectly fine. It's not like there's a problem using them together.
All of his speaker wires are terminated with banana plugs. So with the new DR2 amp in place, he tried cranking the volume up, and it went into protection mode. Now, he says he examined all the likely culprits, and there are no stray strands of wire and no cabling issues. So he wanted to ask, will the amp go into protection mode the way he did it, if it is outputting more power into the speakers than the speakers can handle? That's not how that works.
Nope. Yeah, we can answer that in one word, no.
No. That's not,
but we'll explain further, but that is the answer.
He's looking at those specs figures, and he's wondering if the protection mode problem is because the amp has too much wattage for the front tower speakers. No, that's not how that works. So what's the real deal? There's something that's causing a short in the speaker cable wire someplace.
Yep.
I mean, it really is. I know you checked it, and I know you did all the things. I know you did. But that's still what it is. It's
apparently heat related, because it wasn't until he cranked it right up and had it playing loud for a while, and then poof, it went into protection mode. Which, look, it's very
That's exactly
scary.
how it works. Yeah,
it's very scary when that happens. You're like, oh my God, what happened? Why did it go into protection mode? And I do not question whatsoever that you double checked all your speaker wires on that. Did you check both ends of the speaker wire? I know you didn't change the speaker wire on the speaker ends, and it was never doing this before. Why would it do it now? There was one tiny stray strand that you cannot see with your bare eye, just like looking at it, and it was there all the time, but you never turned it up this loud and generated this much heat quite before. You just did it for the first time. It was just enough that one little stray strand, probably on the speaker end.
Spiderweb fell on it when you were dusting.
I mean, this doesn't look like a room that's got spiderwebs in it, but regardless, maybe you don't clean behind the couch every single time, but it's a short. That, like, protection mode happens because of a short. So 100% it does not happen because your amplifier is rated to potentially output as much as 800 watts and your speakers are rated to handle 500 watts. No. It is not correct to say that the power is drawn or sucked by the speakers. That is not the case, but that is somewhat closer than saying that the power is pushed by the amplifier. It is absolutely not pushed by the amplifier. It's a little bit akin, so it's a difference in potential. That's what the signal is. And the amount of wattage that flows through the circuit is like, well, how much difference in potential is there? And that's what flows. So it's like having a 20-foot tall waterfall, and you put a water wheel into that waterfall at the 10-foot mark. Like, the fact that there's another 10 feet of waterfall below that doesn't mean that suddenly the water wheel is like overpowered by the waterfall. It's just, it's not using quite as much energy as the waterfall is capable of supplying. And that's really all that's going on here with having a speaker that can utilize up to 500 watts when you have 800 watts available to it. So it's not a problem whatsoever. That is absolutely 100% not the cause of it going into protection mode. Now, let's say that the speaker wires genuinely do not have a short anywhere whatsoever. He did buy a brand new amplifier. It is unlikely. It is very not common for Emotiva amplifiers to have this problem out of the factory, but it is not literally impossible that during shipping something internally got jostled, like whatever. Like, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but the most likely thing by far is that even though you were careful and you checked, and I don't doubt that you did for 1 second, I have checked sometimes many times over, and it wasn't until I like literally ran my finger over everything and it's like, oh my God, there is a single strand of wire that was exposed, and there's your short. It is almost certainly that.
No, it just is. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like it. I've been in the same camp as you. I've had the same conversation with Rob and with myself where I'm like, I checked it. Nothing's changed. And then I literally rewired all of my all of my speakers because I was like, well, I'm doing one, I'm doing them all. And then the problem went away. I never found it. I just re-terminated everything.
And he didn't say whether he did this or not, but I know on the back of those Aperion Various Grand V8 towers, more than one set of binding posts. I don't know. Is he someone who replaced the jumpers or something like that? Because it could have to do with the jumpers between the multiple binding posts.
Yeah. So he has run Odyssey several times. Each time he randomly gets another phase warning on one or more of his speakers. He's gotten a warning every time, but not always the same speaker, and not every time the test tone plays, even with the speaker that produced the warning sometimes. So he asked Aperion, they basically said, yeah, that can happen. But why? Could it have anything to do with the Aperion speakers having a woofer with a phase plug? Wow, I love that logical leap. Reflections is most commonly what I think this is. Something is going on. Though. It shouldn't, but I have experienced it as well. So in this, I'm looking at his room again.
In this room with these speakers?
Well, it's not think about where the microphone placement is too.
Yeah.
A little bit of a treble reflection off of the leather of the couch, I think can maybe have an effect here. I've had this happen before, and I've had it happen, and it's like, the speaker is wired out of phase.
Yep.
I mean, it has definitely happened. But if it's jumping around from speaker to speaker, seems unlikely. So it would be my guess that there's some sort of reflection happening in the room. And as long as you're not experiencing actual phase problems, which you can test, depending on what speaker it's happening with, what else are you going to do other than say, well, that's just the way it is.
I mean, so we don't know exactly what his microphone setup procedure was. He's got these low back, looks like it has the optional headrests that can come up, but optional powered headrests, but when they're all retracted, it's these low back things. So I'm like, are you maybe just putting the microphone, like just sitting it on top of one of those headrests while it's, down, rather than using a tripod? Because, if it is a reflection problem, then that would be the most likely culprit. I got two other thoughts. One, again, all of these speakers, they do have dual binding posts. Any chance you did something hinky, really replace the jumpers? Because maybe the tweeters are out of phase with the woofers, and that will give you an occasional detection. So I'm like, okay, I'm just throwing it out there, just taking a stab at anything that might be responsible for this. The other one that is a little bit out there, but absolutely happens to people, I don't know which XLR cables he's using. Not all XLR cables are the same. If you happen to get ones that were actually intended for microphones instead of between a audio preamp and an amplifier, sometimes the pins are wired differently. And even though you only have a positive and a negative, and you aren't actually utilizing that third ground pin, it can lead to the signal not going to the correct pin, which doesn't make it not function. It can just lead to an out-of-phase error. So it's not out of the question that whatever XLR cables you used are actually not wired for this intended purpose. Not just because it has the same connector, an XLR connector, not all XLR cables are actually the same.
Yeah, I guess that could happen too.
Yeah.
But why would it would be, I feel like it would be more consistent if it was if it was a cable like that. So
yeah.
I don't know. Brian is doing some renovation in his theater room. The walls are being insulated and beefed up for soundproofing, so this seems like the appropriate time to also plan out and install his in-wall cable and wire runs, correct? Yeah.
I'd say so.
If your walls are open. He tends to keep his AV receiver in a cabinet at the front of the room, and he envisioned wall mounting his TV above that cabinet. Well, I already hate that idea, but let's go on. But our comments might have convinced him to consider putting his 77-inch LG OLED on some sort of stand instead. He got a couple concerns, though. Will there be optimal space and placement options for his center speaker? The original plan was for the center speaker to go on top of the cabinet and then wall mount his TV the perfect height above that. But if he goes for some sort of TV stand mount instead, how's that all going to work out? The stands we recommend are adjustable in where you place your TV on it, and you can make it so the TV is as high or as low as you want. It will take a little bit of doing as far as you're figuring out exactly where the TV will, and then the height it will be at.
And sometimes even if you measure correctly, you assemble the whole thing, you put it all together, you go to put the center speaker, and you're like, it's a quarter of an inch not tall enough. Gosh darn it. It has happened to all of us, so it might require a little bit of back and forth. But yes, the ones that we always recommend, whether it be one of the 3-in-1 stands, or if you're just getting one of the universal tabletop mounts where it mounts to the Visa pattern on the back of the television and then provides you a pedestal stand, all the ones we recommend are height adjustable. So yeah, I would always have the center speaker. Like, I don't like having the center speaker below the top shelf, right? Because that's sort of like in a little cubby. It's got additional reflections happening, and then it's a little bit too low. So I always like having the center speaker on the top shelf. And then, you can adjust. I mean, one of the reasons I sometimes recommend universal TV stands, the only reason I recommend it is so that you have the height adjustability so that you can put the center speaker on the top shelf and have the TV higher than its, default feet that come with it, or the default stand that comes with the TV. Very often not tall enough to put an actual center speaker below the bottom edge of the TV. I love recommending the universal tabletop TV stands so that you can adjust the height and give yourself enough height for the center speaker. So I don't see this as any sort of worry or reason not to put the 77-inch OLED, which you're probably sitting far enough away from that it makes sense to put it on a stand instead of wall mount it. I think that's the way to go for sure.
What about stability? Are there wall anchors to make sure that if there's an earthquake or someone just bumps into the edge of the TV, that isn't going to topple over? Someone would really have to slam into that TV to knock it over, by the way. I mean, my TV is 77 inches.
Yeah, yours is 77-inch.
It is not coming off of that stand.
And you're using one of those universal tabletop stands. Tom is using one.
So yeah, I would have, I'm not worried about that, but earthquake or something, if you want to secure it. So most of these, TVs or stands or whatever do come with some sort of strap that
they actually come with some straps. Yeah, typically they have you attach those straps to whatever surface you're like, whatever tabletop cabinet top you're putting it on. That is typical. If you want to secure it to the wall instead, or you just need a longer strap or one that more easily hides behind the center pedestal and isn't as visible, anything like that, you can absolutely buy one very easily. I like the one from Mount It because it's only $23 and it's versatile. You can secure it to the wall. You can secure it to the stand that you're on. It also mounts to the Visa mounting holes on the back of the TV, and it is completely adjustable and it's not overly priced. So that one we'll have a link to.
Yeah, so he wants to hide all the wires. As long as he sticks with his plan of the AV receiver being below the TV at the front of the room, he figures he'll just run some speaker wire for the front, left, right, and center directly without any of those going into the walls. Well, there won't be hidden, almost certainly, because they'll be on the ground and you'll see them. Unless this thing is flush to the ground, which sometimes they are. But you'll still see a little bit of wire. That's just kind of inevitable. Invariable. But for surrounds and surround backs, his 4 overhead speakers and his 3 subwoofers. 3? subwoofers.
That's what
and also HDMI and power for the TV. He wants all those to be hidden. So regarding HDMI and power for the TV, that might actually be taken care of with the TV stand instead of the TV wall mount idea, right?
It sure can, yes.
There's a tube that you run this thing down, and it hides most of the wires.
Or at least little clips behind the central pedestal stand if you go for that type, and you can definitely visually hide those wires.
But let's say he ends up wall mounting the TV after all. Any specific recommendations for HDMI wall plates, conduit inside the walls, and in-wall power extension? I'm going to find my AV Gadgets article on this.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'll point you to the one at Echo Gear. The Echo Gear brand is $65. I like this one because, first of all, if you have a TV plug that protrudes a little bit, this one puts it at a recessed angle in the wall for the one that goes directly behind your TV. So it actually allows for regular size plugs, not just flush fit plugs. You get all the things that you need in this kit for $65. So there's an additional male plug down at the bottom that you would plug into there, and then the in-wall extension cord. It's only 6 feet that they provide you, but you only need to go from where the TV is mounted on the wall down to the floor so that it is visibly hidden. And then this provides you a little pass-through for HDMI cable, Ethernet cable, whatever you might want there. But in addition to that, I would highly recommend, if you're going to do any type of in-wall HDMI cable run, even if it's not particularly long, I just love pointing to the Rui Pro detachable fiber optic one, because that is the solution for in-wall HDMI cables as far as I'm concerned. Whatever length you might need, you're going to be looking at right around $100, $90 to $100, something like that. Not the cheapest ever, but to me it's so well worth it. And in addition to that, if you didn't want to use the little pass-through for the HDMI that the Echo Gear has, if you want an actual wall plate that's secured, I love using the Rui Pro's Keystone wall plate for the data center cable rather than an HDMI wall plate, which is only friction fit. It doesn't click in and lock. If the spec changes, you might need to change that wall plate. It's like, no, this is data center, click in, very secure. You're going to have plenty of bandwidth all the way to the future, and you can just change the HDMI ends that connect to those data center cables. So for me, that's the best in-wall solution as far as HDMI goes.
Yes. There we go. For running in-wall subwoofer cables, the longest run is going to be about 40 feet. What's the sort of subwoofer cable should he use? Should he opt for RCA connections on the wall plates, but F-type connections inside the walls? Since he has 3 subwoofers, he could use single gang 3 RCA wall plate to and since he has 3 subwoofers, could he use a single gang 3 RCA wall plate to conveniently connect all 3? I mean, I've always used to use the RCA on both sides.
Yeah.
On the inside and the outside. I don't see any reason to go with the F-type.
They're like, oh, the F-type is more secure because it screws in. It's like, how much are you physically jostling your walls?
Once it's in there. I mean, if it works, it's working. So
even if something comes a little loose, unscrewing a wall plate and checking inside is really not the most difficult thing in the world. So all you would want to do is make sure that the RCA cables that you use are in-wall rated for the ones that are inside the wall, and not all are. But I would just point you to Monoprice. Monoprice has fully CL2 in-wall rated RCA cables that you can get in any length that you want. It's right around $50 for the 50-foot length. It's not the cheapest ever, but it's buy once, cry once. It's not a crazy price, and a lot of other ones are more expensive than that. So yeah, be perfectly fine. As far as wall plates goes, you could go with Monoprice because they just have the little modular wall plate system. So you get one that just has 3 or 4 or 2 or 6 little punch outs in the actual faceplate, and then you get the little modular ones that you put in there. So whatever configuration you need, and they are not expensive from Monoprice. Buy some extras because in case anything cracks or whatever, it's not like you're spending a bunch of money. And then you can get the little blank modular thing that goes in there for any of those holes that are not occupied by a speaker binding post or an RCA plug or something like that. You get the little blank ones that it fits in. If you do just want to get the 3, there's nothing wrong with using a component video RCA. Having the color coding is fine, and there's absolutely no problem using those RCA connections instead. Outdoor Speaker Depot has a nice one for $6 if that's just the way you want to go. So yeah, either of those will work.
So that's fine for the subwoofers. I will mention, because we haven't, I don't think he gets to this, but for HDMI, you really just want to use a pass-through. You do not want to...
Just go with the Rui Pro. It's so much better. Go with the fiber optic and the data center cable. It's so much better.
Yeah. So you just... The thing I'm always concerned about with... Because you'd only be going from the the receiver at the bottom to the TV at the top.
Yeah.
And there's usually like the power one, and then that we use to make sure the power is being run correctly through the wall. But I like to use the HDMI pass through simply because when they invariably change the stupid HDMI thing, you will just be using the cable itself. You just pull a new cable through. So what about for the in-wall speaker wire runs? He needs at least 8, but it might be nice to have the option to expand to more in the future. Should he get single gang wall plates only or opt for double gang to keep all the speaker wire connections together? I'm a little confused by what he means by this.
Well, it's like, the actual face plate on the front, right? You can have the single gang that's like a wall switch, or you can have the double gang, that's just double wide.
I mean, the ones that you were talking about with the
modular ones from Monoprice.
The modular ones. I mean, when I did this, I just bought like a 3 one and just filled it up and had all of my connections in there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with sticking with that. I think that's the easiest and simplest solution. Then if you want to expand, you can. But yeah, if you want one that's all built together, again, Outdoor Speaker Depot. They've got the, pre-configured wall plates for speaker wires, and you can get whatever configuration you need. If you're going above 4 in a single plate, then it's going to be a double gang by default anyway. So those are the options there. Neither of them are crazy expensive. Either one will work. I will say, though, since the whole point of the renovation that he's doing is for soundproofing, make sure that you don't just have the plates and a hole in the wall behind them. Like, put an actual box back there as if you were going to install an outlet or a light switch, and do it that way so that you have the soundproofing benefits.
Yes. Kev. First off, Kev managed to find that voice recorder and voice-to-text device we recommended at a reduced price, so we ordered it, and he'll let us know how it goes.
Yay.
How did he even get this question to us if he didn't have it in hand?
I know, right?
In the meantime, he remembered to write us with the question this week. So this is a guy who when he's driving his car, he listens to us, comes up with questions, but by the time he's sitting down in front of a computer, he can't remember them, and he wanted a voice recorder to do that.
That's right. So
he is still using an Onkyo TX NR818 receiver in one of his setups, and then he also has a Denon X4400H receiver in another setup. Quick aside, he knows that the 818 has 2 of his HDMI inputs labeled as Game 1 and Game 2. Seems perfectly reasonable, but he never noticed more than a single game HDMI label on any other AV receiver model. Was the 818 unique? Who cares what they label those things? They are all the same.
Right, yes. You can definitely... All of them always let you change what actually shows up on the front panel. But yes, by default, why we've never had more than one game input when we definitely have more than one game console out there. You can certainly make an argument that you could have 3. But
I did hear that the Xbox, the CEO lady who they took over, is like making some really good changes that people are very excited about. So
seems like
maybe Xbox is not going to die,
or at least paying lip service if nothing else. Yeah. But so the 818 was not unique because other Onkyos of the same era also had Game 1 and Game 2. But I don't recall like anybody else doing it. So they're relying on you manually changing it.
But I guess whatever. Like I said, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. Unless it's like HDMI 2.1 versus HDMI 1.4 sort of thing.
That's right. Yeah.
They're identical. They just have different names. You can name them whatever you want. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. The 818 has always had a PS3 and a Sony Blu-ray player plugged into it. And then in both setups, he's using a Sony Z9D television, and he's always kept HDMI CEC turned on in both setups for his purposes. Using just the TV's remote has always been sufficient in this way. Mm-hmm. Welcome to CEC deciding to change for no reason, but we'll see. The 818 is always power on briefly exactly at 3 a.m. I'm sorry. The 818 used to always power on briefly exactly at 3 a.m. There wasn't any sort of disturbance. He simply noticed that the receiver would power on at exactly 3 a.m. if he happened to be awake, and it would sit idle for a few moments and then power back off. The TV never turned on, nor did any of the source devices, but he did have his PS3 set to automatically check for updates and to do its online backups exactly at 3 a.m., so he always figured that was what it was. His den never used to power on. But now he has a PS4 connected in both setups, and his receivers are randomly turning on, sitting idle for a few moments, and then powering back off. It isn't always at exactly 3 a.m. anymore. It seems like it could happen at any time. CEC is on. Both receivers are plugged into the Ethernet. Neither has a firmware update in ages. So are these random power-ups caused by the PS4 and also having HDMI CEC turned on, or is it something else, perhaps AV receivers themselves? Who frickin' knows? Could be anything, but yes, I would guess it is a device in your system that is looking for an update, and maybe it's more than one device, and it's powering it, that, going into standby mode, which is probably what it's doing, like some sort of behind the scenes thing to look for that update and then powering itself back off when it doesn't find it, is what's causing this. I can't imagine.
It's a little bit strange that it doesn't also turn on the TV if it's all CEC connected. That makes me wonder if this is actually a wake on LAN situation as opposed to a CEC command that's doing it. Because Xavier, he didn't mention if his TVs are also plugged into his network. He does, obviously the game consoles are plugged into the network and his AV receiver is plugged into the network. I mean, the common thing that changed is he added a PS4 to both systems, and now both AV receivers are powering on and sitting idle for a few minutes and then powering back off. I'm like, I do suspect it's the PS4. It is probably doing its checking for updates, doing its online backup of your game saves and that sort of thing. That definitely seems like the most likely culprit. And this could be more of a wake on LAN situation. So usually there is a setting in the network settings for the AV receivers. There's usually the option to turn wake on LAN on or off. So that's the most likely culprit in my suspicion.
There you go. Troy and his family bought a new house a couple of years ago. The lower level has a family room. It's roughly 13.5 by 23 feet in area, but it's open on one side, probably to the rest of the house. Let's see. Prior to moving in, his wife said she didn't have any preference for where the display would go and how the room would be set up to use as a home theater. It was pre-wired to have the display and front speakers on the 13.5-inch wall and be open at the back. But after they moved in, it turned out his wife did have a preference, and it was to set up the room with the display on one of the 23-foot walls with the couch up against the wall on the opposite side. Could have told you that.
Yup.
I could have told you this, but because no one wants to see the back of a couch. Even though they do make couches this day specifically with the idea that you'll see the back of it. Like that was a selling point when we were looking at couches a while back. So at the moment, he is projecting a 120-inch image onto one of the 23-foot walls with the projector and the ceiling mounted shelf above the couch on the opposite wall with just a 2.2 speaker setup. He'd very much like to add at least a pair of surround speakers. Going back to that plan from before they moved in, the surround were going to be on the side walls, with the back of the space being open. But now he has a right side wall and no left side. So should maybe he put a speaker on the right wall and the left surround goes on the back wall? Or perhaps he is a good candidate for in-ceiling speakers as surrounds? What do we think? He hasn't bought any speakers yet, so any type is on the table. Let me look at this again.
On-wall speakers, both on the back wall. That's what I would do.
Yeah, because that's essentially how mine are on stands, but they are basically just behind the couch off of each corner. Because why not? Mostly because if I put them just to the side of the couches where they're quote unquote supposed to be, when you open the door, you're gonna knock one over. So yes, that's how that's working out.
So he didn't say exactly what front speakers you have. Those almost look like Ascend Sierras. The cabinets look about right, and the grills look about right, but I'm not certain what those are. So the point being, I don't know exactly what on-wall model of speakers is going to match perfectly if you care about such things. I mean, it is a slight compromise in the placement. I would not do the thing of one of my surround speakers is on a side wall and the other one is on the back wall. It's like in this case, they're both on the back wall, but it's not as though they're so far behind you that they're not acting as surrounds. Like your couch is basically up against the back wall. If there's any way to wiggle that couch forward, even just a handful of inches, that would be a benefit. That's probably
such a big image, though, and they're so. Yes. I mean, it's 120 from not that far away,
and there's things balancing on the back of the couch. So I'm guessing that's not coming away from the wall whatsoever. But yeah, I'd get some slim on-wall speakers that get mounted directly to the back wall, and both of them on the back wall. So yeah, I mean, if you want to write back back to for specific suggestions, but I mean, I would take a look at what speakers do you already have. Is there something from the same brand, preferably from the same series, from the same brand, that matches as an on-wall candidate? If those RSN speakers, then that would certainly be the case. The Sierra Lunas would be a perfect match here, or you could go with the HTM 200 SEs. They would match perfectly fine here if you want to keep the cost down as well. Those are great candidates almost regardless of what speakers you have, but if you want to go less expensive, something like the ELAC Debut on-walls, those would be a very good choice in here, because you aren't talking about massive distances that you need to cover in this setup, right. And some nice slim on-walls that are very reasonable and neutral will go a long way.
So we only have Greg left.
We do.
Okay, so we'll get to you next week, Greg.
All right. Yeah, that one isn't even time sensitive, so that's a good candidate for leaving for next week. I'll also mention I did get an email from Nathan on Monday, so that was past the cutoff time that I arbitrarily use for myself. It wasn't really a question, it was more of a comment, but Nathan, I did get that email just to let you know.
All right. Once again, if you want to get in on the Sofabaton X1S giveaway, this is the last week to enter. Email us at question@avrant.com and put in the title something about Sofabaton giveaway, and then say in the body, enter me.
Sure.
Which sounds weird when I say it out loud.
Maybe don't
literally maybe requirement. Don't write that. Maybe write something else.
As long as it is evident that you want to be part of the Sofabaton X1S giveaway, now is your last chance. The cutoff will be once again 11:59 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, May the 11th, 2026. That's the last moment that you could possibly enter. You enter after that, you're not going to be part of this draw. You've been warned.
That's right. We want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank our 121 patrons over at patreon.com. Thank you very much for all your support.
Yeah, again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thank you to our 121 patrons over there.
That's right. And if you want to make a one-time donation, it's click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link on our website for a PayPal donation. I want to thank Jack for offering to pay for the shipping for the Sofabaton X1S remote. So we'll be giving away. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. It was a very generous offer.
And we got notes of gratitude from Greg, Tom, Greg H., Adam, Scott, Brian, and Troy. Thank you for thanking us.
Yes, I'll say the names one more time. We got Greg, Tom, Greg H., Adam, Scott, Brian, and Troy, as well as, yes, there were many people who included it in their Sofabaton X1S entries, and I just ran out of time to collect all those names. But thank you to everybody, and thank you for the response to that giveaway draw. It's all been fantastic. So we appreciate all of the gratitude and the encouragement and everything. And a big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.